Imagine this. You walk into a room wearing the same clothes, driving the same ordinary car, and living the same simple life you've always lived. But there's one thing nobody knows. You could have hundreds of thousands of dollars quietly working for you behind the scenes. And the people around you, they still think you're just getting by. That's the strange thing about quietly becoming wealthy. You don't suddenly look rich. You don't necessarily act rich. And you definitely don't have to tell anyone you're rich. But slowly, the way you think, the way you spend, and even the way people treat you can start changing. And here's where it gets interesting. Some people may actually respect you less before they realize you're doing well. Why? Because they judge what they can see. They see the ordinary car. They see the simple clothes. They see you turning down an expensive dinner. They see you saying, "I'm good," when everyone else is upgrading their lifestyle. And they make a quick assumption. You're probably not doing that well, but what they don't see is what matters most. They don't see the money you've been saving. They don't see the investments you're building. They don't see the emergency fund sitting quietly in the background. They don't see the years of saying not yet while everyone else was saying why not. And they definitely don't see the biggest thing you're building, financial freedom. At first, building wealth can feel almost invisible. You go to work, earn your income, pay your bills, save some money, and invest what you can. Nothing dramatic happens. There's no movie moment where suddenly everything changes. You just repeat the same small decisions again and again. And honestly, that's the boring part nobody talks about. Wealth usually isn't built by looking rich. It's built by doing things that don't look impressive at all. You might keep your old phone instead of buying the newest one. You might cook at home while your friends are ordering expensive food. You might skip a purchase because you realize you don't actually need it. You might receive a raise and decide not to immediately increase your lifestyle. And nobody applauds you for any of it. But over time, those boring decisions start creating something powerful. Your savings get bigger. Your investments begin growing. Your financial cushion becomes stronger. And eventually, money starts changing its role in your life. In the beginning, you might think money is mainly about buying things. A better phone, better clothes, a nicer car, a bigger house. But once you start building real financial security, you can start seeing money differently. Money isn't just something you spend. It can buy you time, choices, flexibility, and peace of mind. And that changes the question you ask before spending. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" you start asking, "Do I actually want this badly enough to trade my money for it?" That's a completely different mindset, because technically you might be able to afford something and still decide not to buy it. Not because you're broke, not because you can't afford it, but because you understand that having money and needing to spend money are two different things. And that's when people may start misunderstanding you. Someone might invite you somewhere expensive and you say no. They might think you're cheap. Someone might see you driving an ordinary car and assume you can't afford anything better. They might see you wearing simple clothes and assume you don't have much money. They might even joke that you're behind everyone else, but you're not necessarily behind. You may simply be playing a completely different game. While one person is trying to look successful today, you're trying to become financially secure years from now. And the difference between those two goals is enormous, because looking wealthy is about what people can see. Building wealth is often about what people can't see. Anyone can make one impressive purchase, but financial independence is built through hundreds of decisions nobody notices. The transfer you make into savings, the investment you make every month, the debt you decide not to take on, the purchase you walk away from, the skill you learn because you know it can increase your future income. None of these moments look exciting, but put enough of them together and eventually your life can look completely different. And then something else happens. You become harder to pressure. Think about it. If your entire financial life depends on your next paycheck, other people's opinions can have a lot of power over you. You might feel pressure to keep up. You might say yes when you want to say no. You might buy things you don't really need because everyone around you has them. But when you've built a financial cushion, you can start making decisions differently. You can say, "No, that's not for me." You can walk away from unnecessary spending. You can take more time before making a major financial decision. You can stop competing with people who don't even know they're competing with you. And perhaps most importantly, you can stop needing to prove that you're successful. Your bank account doesn't need an audience. Your investments don't need likes. Your financial goals don't need everyone's approval. And once you understand that, you may actually become quieter about money. You don't tell everyone what you earn. You don't show people your savings. You don't constantly talk about what you can afford, not because you're hiding something bad, but because you finally understand that financial progress doesn't become more valuable just because more people know about it. In fact, sometimes keeping your finances private protects you from something that can become surprisingly expensive: other people's expectations. Because once people believe you have money, they may start treating your money like it's available to them. Suddenly, there's a loan request, there's a business idea, there's an emergency, there's something they want you to pay for. And this is where quiet wealth requires another skill: boundaries. Becoming financially successful doesn't mean you have to become everyone's financial solution. You can love your family, you can care about your friends, you can help people when you genuinely want to. But you don't have to destroy your own financial future to prove that you care. Sometimes "I can't do that" is not selfish. It's simply a boundary. And the more financially secure you become, the more valuable that ability can be. Because real wealth isn't just about having more money, it's about having more control over your choices. Imagine having enough savings that an unexpected expense doesn't completely destroy your month. Imagine being able to think about your next career move without immediately panicking about your next paycheck. Imagine being able to take your time before making an important decision instead of accepting the first option because you desperately need the money. That's what financial freedom can look like. It's not always a Lamborghini. Sometimes it's simply being able to breathe. And here's the part that makes quiet wealth so interesting. You might become financially successful without looking financially successful at all. You might still shop during sales. You might still use an old laptop. You might still eat at normal restaurants. You might still live in the same neighborhood. You might still choose the cheaper option when the expensive option doesn't add enough value to your life. And someone looking at you might think, "Why isn't this person living bigger?" But maybe that's exactly the point. You aren't trying to make your life look bigger. You're trying to make your options bigger, because there is a huge difference between being able to afford something and needing to buy it to feel successful. When you have something to prove, you want people to notice. When you have nothing to prove, you can finally relax. And that's one of the strangest things about quietly building wealth. The more financially secure you become, the less interested you may become in convincing people that you're successful. You stop chasing approval. You stop comparing your life to strangers online. You stop looking at someone else's car and wondering why you don't have one. You stop making purchases just because everyone else is making them. And slowly, money becomes less about showing people who you are and more about creating the life you actually want. So if you're currently building wealth and nobody notices, don't worry about it. Maybe they aren't supposed to notice yet. Maybe your job right now isn't to look successful. Maybe your job is to become financially strong enough that you don't need to look successful. Keep learning. Keep improving your financial habits. Keep building valuable skills. Keep saving toward meaningful goals. Invest carefully when appropriate. And don't underestimate the power of boring consistency. Because one day, you may look back and realize that all those tiny decisions nobody noticed were actually changing your entire life. The world might notice the house later. It might notice the car. It might notice the vacation. But those are only the visible results. What people won't see is the discipline that created them. And maybe the biggest sign that you've truly become wealthy isn't that you can finally buy everything you want. Maybe it's that you no longer want everything you see. You don't need to win every comparison. You don't need strangers to think you're successful. You don't need to explain your bank account. You don't need to announce your progress. You simply keep building, quietly, patiently, consistently, because when your money starts creating choices for your future, you don't need everyone else to know. You just need to know that you're moving in the right direction. And eventually, you may realize the biggest flex isn't looking rich at all. It's reaching a point where your life looks ordinary from the outside, while your financial freedom is growing quietly underneath it.